Hey everyone, and welcome. You've probably seen a kid totally absorbed playing with blocks, right? Or maybe matching different textures. Well, have you ever stopped to think about how that simple, fun activity is actually laying the groundwork for some of life's most complex ideas? That's what we're digging in today. This incredible journey from something you can touch and hold to these big, abstract thoughts. So let's just jump right in with a question. How in the world does playing with blocks prepare a kid for geometry? It sounds kind of crazy, right? Like a huge leap. But you're about to see that the connection isn't just there, it's super direct, and honestly, it's incredibly powerful. Because, and this is the key, this is so much more than just play. When you see a child completely zoned in, matching sounds or smelling spices or feeling different fabrics, they're doing something really profound. They're literally, deliberately building their own mind. You see, in the Montessori world, these aren't really seen as toys. Think of them more like scientific tools for the brain. Each one is designed so carefully to isolate just one quality, like just size, or just color, or just texture. This lets the child explore that one thing with total focus and clarity. It's like a workout for their senses, and the whole point is to build a stronger and way more organized mind. And that leads us right into this really central idea, building what's called the mind's order. This isn't about just random play. Nope. It's about creating a super structured way of thinking, right from the very beginning, using the world itself as the raw material. So what does that even mean, order of the mind? Well, think about it. Our senses are getting bombarded with information every single second. It's just chaos. This process is all about taking that raw, jumbled mess and learning how to sort it, how to classify, compare, and organize it. It's how we turn all that noise into a clear signal, into actual knowledge. And it's a three-step process, really. First, the child just explores with their senses, right? They're just soaking up all this rich information. Then they start to classify what they're sensing. This is big, that's small, or this one's loud, that one's quiet. And the final step, they organize all those little classifications into a mental framework. And that framework, that's the foundation for everything else they're going to learn. Okay, so this whole process creates something we can call a bridge, and it's a really important one. It's the bridge that takes a child from the world of real physical stuff they can touch and hold, all the way to the world of abstract ideas. Things like math and logic and even language itself. All right, let's see this bridge in action. I want to show you a few really clear examples because these materials, they're not just about making the senses sharper. They are literally the building blocks for high-level thinking in pretty much every subject you can imagine. Okay, let's start with the famous pink tower. When a child physically handles these 10 cubes, which get bigger in this really precise way, they're developing this deep, intuitive, physical understanding of size and of volume. It's not intellectual, it's in their hands. And get this, that experience prepares their mind for super complex math concepts like the cube root, years before they'll ever see a formula. And it works the same way for hearing. With the sound cylinders, a child is carefully listening, trying to match pairs that make the exact same sound. It looks like a simple matching game, right? But what's really happening is they're training their ear. They're learning to tell tiny differences in sound, which is absolutely crucial for music, but also, and this is huge, for learning to read, for hearing the different sounds in words. And of course, there's touch. Think about a child reaching into a bag and identifying a shape just by feeling it. They're building something called stereognostic memory. That's a fancy term, but all it means is the ability to see with your hands, to create a mental picture of something just by touching it. And that skill, that's a direct line to abstract geometry, to being able to picture and move shapes around in your head. But wait, there's one more piece to this puzzle, a super important piece that ties it all together, and that's language. Because, having a sensory experience is great, but to really turn it into an abstract idea, you need a name for it. This is literally the final step across that bridge we've been talking about. When you give a precise name to an experience, calling something rough or smooth, or a cube versus a prism, that's what locks it in. It cements that physical feeling into a real mental concept that the child can then use to think and reason with. Language basically makes the invisible idea visible. So the big takeaway here is that this is way more than just learning new words. When a child connects the word thick to the feeling of that big block from the brown stair, they're not just learning vocabulary, They're building the mental tool for mathematical comparison. When they learn rough and smooth, that's the beginning of scientific classification. This precise language, it's like the software for their growing mind. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. I want to show you how this whole journey from just sensing things to actual intelligence plays out in a real classroom. There's this great story about a kid in a Montessori classroom. With no one telling him what to do, he just started combining the pink tower and the brown stair, making these amazing, balanced structures. He was just playing, just exploring. But here's the cool part. Later on, when he was introduced to abstract math, he got concepts like base 10 and volume, like instantly. So the question is, why? Well, it's because his mind was already prepared. He didn't need a long explanation. Through his own hands-on play, he had already built the mental framework for it. See, he wasn't taught the rule. He discovered the principle for himself just by playing. So when the abstract idea came along, it had a solid, concrete place to land in his mind. So let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here? First, all that sensory exploration, it's not random. It creates order in the mind. Second, those concrete objects are building a solid bridge to abstract ideas. Third, precise language is what locks it all in. And finally, and this is maybe the most important part, this isn't just about preparing for school. This hands-on experience is preparation for life. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. What if the path to our highest intelligence doesn't start with what we're told in a book, but with what we can actually touch, see, and hear? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.